You are 22 years old and you do not know where you are. Not geographically. You know the coordinates. You've been trained to always know the coordinates. What you do not know is what category of life you have just entered. The bus that brought you to the selection site had its windows blacked out. That was the first communication. It said, what you knew before this does not apply here. The air at 0430 is 38 degrees Fahrenheit. You feel it on the back of your neck, where the hair was cut too short 2 days ago. Around you, 41 other candidates stand in 2 rows. Nobody speaks. The cadre have not told you not to speak. They have simply not created a space in which speaking would make sense, and you are already learning to read the architecture of silence. You are wearing a number, Candidate 27, not your name. Your name has been administratively suspended. It exists in a folder somewhere, attached to a security clearance application and a medical history, and a personnel file that describes your performance over 3 years of conventional service. None of that is relevant. You are Candidate 27, and Candidate 27 has no history. The log is 40 inches in diameter, and you were told to pick it up. 12 of you try. The log does not move the way a log should move. It is wet from the night's rain, and the bark has gone soft in places, and the smell of it, earth, rot, something almost medicinal, is the first sensory fact of this life that will stay with you for the rest of it. You will smell that log in the back of your throat for years, in airports, in briefing rooms, at 2 a.m. in a suburb where nothing is trying to kill you. You pick up the log. You carry it for 4 hours. 3 candidates quit before 0800. They place their helmets on the ground and step away from the formation. Nobody stops them. Nobody speaks to them. They simply become former candidates, and the log becomes 11 men's problem. And you redistribute the weight without being told, because you are already learning that in this environment, the work absorbs the loss and keeps moving. This is the first lesson. The system does not pause for attrition. Selection takes 23 days officially. It takes longer than that in practice, because selection is not a defined event. It is a threshold, and the threshold has no posted location. You are in it until you are not, and the only way to know you've passed is that the cadre stop treating you like a candidate and start treating you like a problem they've chosen to invest in. The Q course follows. 18 months. Special Forces qualification. Languages, which for you is Pashto, assessed at the Interagency Language Roundtable scale to a functional working proficiency of 2+ by month 14. Weapons, medical, tactics, demolition. The SEER course, which teaches you what happens when the system that trained you cannot retrieve you, and how to survive in the space between the mission and the rescue. You will return to that curriculum in your mind more than once in the coming years, in rooms where the absence of rescue is not theoretical. By month 16, you have a tab on your shoulder. By month 18, you have a team number and a gear list and a departure date. The departure date has no return date attached to it. You are 24 years old. You have never felt more prepared for anything. This feeling will not last, but it is real while it exists, and you carry it onto the aircraft the way you carry your kit, distributed correctly, weight forward, both hands available. The first rotation is 8 months. The base is a converted agricultural compound in a province whose name you will not repeat in civilian conversation for the rest of your life. The walls are mud brick. The generator runs 18 hours a day, and you learn to work in the 6-hour window when it doesn't, by feel and by the dull red of a filtered headlamp. The temperature in summer peaks at 114 degrees Fahrenheit in the afternoon. You conduct operations in that heat because the enemy conducts operations in that heat, and the only asymmetric advantage available to either side is the willingness to be present in conditions that discourage presence. You are the most junior man on the team. Your function is defined and narrow. You execute, you document, you learn. You do not interpret. You do not question the operational picture you are given. The operational picture is assembled above your pay grade, and your pay grade is E6, which is $3,278 a month base, plus hazardous duty pay, plus combat zone tax exclusion, which brings the effective number to something your civilian counterparts would find implausible given the working conditions. The first direct action mission runs 47 minutes from breach to extract. The objective is a mid-level facilitator, a man who moves people across a provincial border for a network whose upper structure is managed from a city you will visit in a later rotation. The compound is 2 structures and a vehicle bay.
The team enters from the east and west simultaneously. You are in the east element. You clear 2 rooms. The target is in the 3rd room. He is not armed. He is compliant. You flex cuff him and pass him rearward and continue clearing. The debrief is 90 minutes. The report is 14 pages. The target is transferred to another agency 2 days later, and what happens to him after that transfer is outside your information architecture. You will learn to accept this. The work has sharp edges and smooth middles. You own the sharp edges. The smooth middles belong to someone else. By the end of the first rotation, you have run 31 missions. The promotions come procedurally. E7 after the second rotation, Team Sergeant after the third. Each promotion arrives as a set of new responsibilities that expand your exposure and compress your sleep. By year 5, you are building the operational picture, not receiving it. You are reading intelligence products at 0200 and writing execution checklists at 0400 and briefing commanders at 0600 and running the mission at 0100 the following morning. The moral architecture of the work shifts in year 4. Not dramatically. There is no single moment. It is more like a recalibration, the way a scope adjusts for environmental variables. You begin making decisions you didn't used to make. An informant's reliability is assessed and found wanting, and you adjust the weight you give his product, and the adjustment affects targeting, and targeting affects outcomes. The informant does not know his product has been downgraded. The outcomes are not always clean. In year 5, a strike is called on a compound based on a package you reviewed and validated. The package is correct. The assessment is sound. The strike hits the correct structure at the correct time. There are 12 people in the structure. 4 of them are not the target. The report will describe this as within the acceptable parameters of the engagement authority. You read the report, you file your section, you attend the debrief. You do not disagree with the report. The report is accurate. This is the specific form of the moral weight you will carry. Not that the report was wrong, but that it was right, and right was sufficient, and you built part of the architecture that made it sufficient. This is not a crisis. It does not feel like a crisis. It feels like Tuesday. The system runs on paper and on silence. The paper is the administrative layer. ROE packets, targeting authority matrices, op-ord annexes, after-action reports that must be completed within 4 hours of mission conclusion, regardless of what occurred during the mission. You have written AARs while your hands were still shaking from the adrenaline of an extract. You have proofread them for formatting errors. This is not irony. This is compliance. The system requires legible documentation because documentation is the mechanism by which the system maintains the fiction of control, and the system's survival depends on that fiction. The silence is the operational layer, what is not written, not briefed, not attributed. You learn the creative compliance within your first year. The ROE says the target must be positively identified by 2 independent intelligence streams. In practice, the 2 streams are sometimes one stream described twice. You do not invent this practice. You inherit it from the man whose position you eventually occupy, who inherited it from his predecessor. It is institutional knowledge without institutional acknowledgement. It lives in the space between the letter of the authority and the operational reality. And you inhabit that space with the efficiency of a person who has been trained to find workable solutions inside constrained environments. The targeting cycle runs on a 72-hour rhythm. Intelligence is collected, intelligence is fused, a target package is built. The package is reviewed at 3 levels of command, each of which adds a layer of approval and a layer of distance from the ground. By the time the package reaches execution, it has been touched by 14 sets of hands, none of which will be on the breach tool when the door comes open. The men with the breach tool are the endpoint of a long administrative process that began with a signals collection in a server farm in a state you've never been to. You are $84,000 a year and a security clearance and a deployment cycle that runs roughly 9 months out of 24. The numbers are important. They define the edges of the system. 9 months deployed means 15 months home, except home is a term that applies with decreasing precision as the rotations accumulate. By year 6, home is a zip code with a storage unit and a lease on an apartment you've occupied for a cumulative 11 months. Home is a concept the system has not had time to fully construct. The erosion is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not arrive as a dramatic event. It arrives as a series of small recalibrations that feel individually like adjustment, adaptation, the reasonable response to an unreasonable environment. Your ability to sleep in civilian noise degrades by year 3. In your apartment, you hear the neighbors and the street and the ambient infrastructure of a city that was not designed to be quiet, and the noise registers as input that your nervous system has been trained to evaluate for threat signatures. The evaluation is brief. You identify the noise as non-threatening, but you do not stop evaluating it. The evaluative function runs continuously at a low level, consuming a portion of your cognitive capacity that used to be available for other things. By year 4, you stop telling the people in your life what the work involves. Not because it is classified, though portions are, because the translation is too expensive. The gap between what you have been inside of and what they understand of the world is not a gap that conversation can close. You become, in civilian contexts, a skilled impersonator of a person who is not done.
It ends quietly. There is a conversation that takes 40 minutes and says almost nothing. She says she cannot locate you anymore. You understand what she means. You have been training yourself for years to be unlocatable, to present a consistent, functional exterior that reveals nothing about the interior. The skill that keeps you operationally safe has made you relationally invisible. You do not know how to turn it off. You are not sure it has an off position. By year 7, your primary relationships are with the 9 men on your team. These relationships are not described in civilian language. They are not friendships in the conventional sense, though they contain friendship. They are operational bonds, the specific intimacy of people who have made decisions together in conditions that compress trust building from years into minutes. You know these men the way you know terrain, their capabilities, their failure points, their specific gravity under pressure. This knowledge is complete in the ways that matter inside the work and incomplete in the ways that matter outside it. The isolation is not experienced as isolation. It is experienced as clarity. This is the most insidious aspect of the erosion. It feels for years like focus. It does not happen during an operation. Operations have a logic. They have a beginning and an execution and an extract and a debrief. The logic holds. Inside the logic, you know what you are. It happens on a Tuesday afternoon in the 9th year. You are in a briefing room in a building on a base in a country you have been to 4 times. The air conditioning runs at 68 degrees, and the fluorescent lights have a barely perceptible flicker that you noticed the first time you sat in this room and have tracked ever since, in the unconscious way you track all environmental variables. A senior officer is presenting a targeting package for an individual you have been monitoring for 14 months. The package is correct. The assessment is sound. The individual in the package is someone whose actions have resulted directly in the deaths of 11 people over the past 3 years. The deaths are documented. The attribution is solid. You have reviewed the intelligence yourself at multiple points in the cycle, and each time the review has confirmed the assessment. The officer presents the package. He is calm. The presentation is professional. The slides are formatted correctly. You are looking at a photograph of a man who's 43 years old. The photograph was taken 11 days ago by a collection asset whose existence is classified at a level above most of the people in the room. The man in the photograph is standing outside a building. He is carrying a bag. He looks in the photograph like a person on an errand. You have seen this photograph before. You reviewed it during targeting. You noted the collection date, the assessed location, the confidence interval on the identification. But you are looking at it now in a different way. You are looking at it and you are thinking about the 14 months of surveillance. You are thinking about the 11 people whose deaths are attributed to this man's operational decisions. You are thinking about the ROE and the approval chain and the 14 sets of hands that have touched this package. You are thinking about the strike that will happen and the report that will follow and the debrief and the next package and the rotation after this one. And you understand, sitting in 68-degree air under a flickering fluorescent light, that this is not a moment. This is a system. You are not a person making a decision. You are a position in a chain. The chain began before you arrived, and it will continue after you leave. The man in the photograph is a node in a network. The network will produce another node. The targeting cycle will begin again in 72 hours.
Nothing about this is new information. You have known all of it, cognitively, for years. But knowing something and understanding its weight are two different things, and the weight has just arrived. The weight does not stop you from validating the package. You validate the package. You file your section of the documentation. You attend the debrief. But something has shifted in the architecture. Something load-bearing has moved. The shift is permanent, the way certain structural changes are permanent, not collapsed, but altered. You will carry the altered structure forward into everything that follows. You separate from service in year 11. The paperwork takes 3 weeks. There is a transition assistance program that offers resume workshops and interview coaching. You attend 2 sessions and do not return. The gap between the curriculum and your actual situation is too large to navigate politely. Your DD-214 lists your specialty code and your decorations and your dates of service. It does not list the 31 missions of the first rotation or the total count that followed. It does not list the targeting packages or the validations or the decisions that exist in the space between the letter of the authority and the operational reality. The document is accurate. It contains almost nothing. You drive away from the installation on a Wednesday morning in October. The exit route takes you past the main gate, past the housing area where families are beginning their mornings, past the PX, past the administrative buildings where your file is now marked as a separation. You drive through the gate, and you are outside the perimeter for the first time in 3 years without a mission requirement driving the exit. The road leads into a city. The city is doing what cities do on 800 hours on a Wednesday, moving, consuming, producing, managing its own civilian logistics. People at intersections, people in coffee lines, people on phones, people in cars with no understanding of where you have been or what the coordinates of those places mean. You find an apartment. You find a contract position with a security consultancy that does not ask you to explain the classified portions of your background. The contract pays $142,000 a year and involves reviewing threat assessments for corporate entities operating in environments you know better than the people writing the assessments. The work is clean. The work has no body count. The work is very quiet. On the base, a new E6 has arrived. He is 24 years old. He is wearing a number. He is carrying a log. The team he will eventually join is running a current rotation. The targeting cycle is on its 72nd hour. A package is being reviewed. The intelligence has been fused. The approval chain is processing. The documentation is being prepared for the 4-hour post-mission window. The system has not registered your absence. Systems do not register absences. They register gaps, and gaps are filled. The gap you left was filled within 60 days by a man whose personnel file describes his performance over 3 years of conventional service and whose DARI is assessed at 2+ level on the ILR scale, and who carries his kit with the weight distributed correctly and both hands available. He does not know your name. He does not need to. You sit in the apartment on a Tuesday afternoon. It is 68 degrees inside because you keep it that way without thinking about why. The light in the corner of the room has a flicker you have been meaning to fix for 6 weeks. You have not fixed it. You track it instead, automatically, the way you track all environmental variables. Outside, the city runs its logistics. Inside, you are reviewing a threat assessment for a mining operation in a province whose name you have said aloud fewer than 10 times in 11 years of knowing it. The assessment is adequate. It contains almost nothing useful. You begin rewriting it from the beginning, in the clinical, restrained language of a person who has been inside the information and come back out. The language is specific. The numbers are accurate. The risk categories are grounded in operational reality rather than analytical convention. You write for 2 hours. The document is better. You file it. You close the laptop. Outside, somewhere, a 24-year-old is carrying a log in 38-degree air, and the weight of it is being distributed across however many men remain in the formation, and the system is watching to see how he carries it. It always is. It always will be. The log does not care who is carrying it.